79-year-old Lucille Hultgren lived in Galt, California in 1988. She was a recent widow, with her husband Frank Hultgren passing away in October of 1987. Lucille and Frank lived in Galt for about 25 years after moving there from Ohio. They had 2 adult sons. On May 23, 1988, 2 of Lucille's friends became concerned. It had been a few days since they last saw Lucille, and she didn't attend church the previous day. The 2 friends entered her residence through a partially open sliding glass door. They then found her body and called the police. Lucille had visible injuries to her chest, and she appeared to have been assaulted. The autopsy confirmed that she had been stabbed and strangled. Investigators collected DNA evidence from the crime scene belonging to the person who took her life. It turned out that investigators would get all the evidence they needed to solve the case, but it would take more than 30 years for the available technology to make sure of it. Thanks to advances in technology, investigators with the Sacramento County Crime Lab got a hit in 2022 when they analyzed the scrapings from Lucille's fingernails, as well as bodily fluid from the bedding at the scene. They identified Terry Leroy Bramble as the person responsible. His DNA was on file from a 1992 assault conviction in San Joaquin County. It was thanks to this separate case that officials managed to link him to Lucille's case. Bramble had been a longtime resident and transient of Galt until he passed away due to natural causes in October of 2011. It was under a bridge at Highway 99, where he had been living for 5 or 6 years. The police said they had no information on a motive. Bramble had not been on their radar as a potential suspect, but he is now. When asked if Bramble could be linked to other cases, Galt police said they were canvassing cold cases in the region for possible links. Galt Police Chief Brian Kolonowski said, "Our hearts go out to the Hultgren family, and although we're unable to bring Lucille back, we hope by identifying the suspect responsible, it can provide some closure for her family." Many people have come forward talking about all the great memories they have of Lucille. One of her neighbors, Sean Jacobs, said, "Her husband passed away to Alzheimer's, but they were both kind, loving people, and they took in all the neighborhood kids. We were always welcome in their house for cookies and lemonade during the summertime. And I never heard a cross word come from her. She was just very super sweet." Lucille's son, Henry Hultgren, said, "Mom was my champion. I was the baby of the family, and I miss her to this very day." He is 78 years old, almost the same age his mother was when he lost her. 11-year-old Melissa Ann Tremblay lived in Salem, New Hampshire in 1988. On September 11th of the same year, Melissa accompanied her mother and her mother's boyfriend to the LaSalle Social Club at 397 Andover Street in Lawrence, New Hampshire. While her mother and her boyfriend remained inside the club, Melissa played in the adjacent neighborhoods and was last seen by a railroad employee and a pizza delivery driver during the late afternoon hours. When Melissa did not return to the club, her mother got worried. That night, her mother and the boyfriend searched the entire area, but when they couldn't find Melissa, they reported her missing. Melissa's body was found the next day. Someone left her on the train tracks. She had been stabbed as well. Investigators collected evidence from the crime scene. They believe that the person who stabbed her was left-handed. In 2014, when investigators took another look at the case, they found usable DNA samples that belonged to the person who took her life. A DNA profile was created, but did not match anyone in their database. It would still be a few more years for DNA technology to be advanced enough to identify the suspect. That time would finally come in 2022. 74-year-old Marvin McClendon Jr. was arrested at his home in Bremen, Alabama on April 26th. He was taken to a jail in Massachusetts to face the charges against him. Prosecutors said that DNA evidence found in 2014 on Melissa led investigators to McClendon's family. They obtained DNA samples from some, including Marvin. He was the only left-handed family member, and as you'll remember, investigators long believed a left-handed person committed the crime. After some more DNA testing, it was confirmed that Marvin McClendon took the life of Melissa. He also had ties to Lawrence and a van that looked like the one witnesses saw Melissa near on the day that she disappeared. He frequented numerous establishments in Lawrence near the club where Melissa was last seen. He lived in Chelmsford, Massachusetts at the time and worked as a carpenter. McClendon is also a retired Massachusetts Department of Corrections officer. He worked for the department on 3 separate occasions from 1970 to 2002. When he retired in 2002, he moved to Alabama. A Lawrence District Court judge ordered McClendon to be held without bail. He'll have a dangerousness hearing on June 17, 2022. A dangerousness hearing is when the prosecution requests a judge to hold a defendant without bail for up to 120 days. If you lose a dangerousness hearing, you will be locked up in jail without being convicted of anything. It will not feel like you are still presumed innocent until proven guilty. Melissa's family released a statement expressing their relief that there has been an update in the case, and frustration that some of the family are no longer alive to see justice served. This is what Danielle Root, one of Melissa's family members, had to say. "We never thought that after 33 and a half years, we would finally see someone arrested and facing a judge. While we know there are many more steps, we are very confident that the District Attorney's Office will be just as vigilant in prosecuting this case as the detectives have been for all of these years in finding Marvin McClendon. There have been so many emotions since the end of April when we were contacted about the arrest. They have gone from excitement to sadness to frustration, and really all over the place. We are excited to see him in jail, but very sad my aunt, grandfather, and other family members are no longer alive to see him facing justice. Our family looks forward to seeing this case go forward to the grand jury for indictment, and then onto the Superior Court to see justice finally served." Melissa's friend Sherry Carnignon was in court for McClendon's arraignment and said this: "I was 10 years old when this happened, so you imagine a person in your head and what they could look like and who they could be, and you look and see a frail old man. You took the life of an 11-year-old girl, and then you went on for another 33 years walking free, and where's she? In a grave." It is unclear whether the suspect and victim knew each other, but the odds are it was a crime of opportunity. There is no information leading investigators to believe McClendon was involved in any other crimes, but it is being investigated.